It gave military spouse is what it gave.
It did.
Or like CEO's wife, like someone who doesn't have a job, but like their personality is their husband's job, which is just like, I don't know. You don't need to have a job. You can like be a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom, but like your personality can't be your husband's job because that has nothing to do with who you are as a person.
Why don't you just grow as an individual and leave the rest of us alone with your pretension? Like,
and it's just so condescending. My name is KJ, and you're listening to the Supernatural Opinions podcast, where some things in this world are supernatural. My pronouns are she, they, and this is the podcast where I talk to my fellow Supernatural fans about Supernatural, and we share our supernatural opinions. Today I'm being joined by my guests, Meredith and Whiskey. And Meredith, remind everyone who you are.
Hi, I'm Meredith. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm tired today, as usual.
That's fine. It's early for us.
Yeah.
And Whiskey, remind everyone who you are. You haven't been here since last season.
No, I have not. Hi, I'm Whiskey. My pronouns are she and her, or they, I don't really care. And I am the reason that everyone's tired, because it's 9 a.m. over there, because we're having to film on my time, because I'm in England.
Yes, we're excited to be international again. We had a few international episodes this season, but it's good to have another one. Scheduling's been a nightmare.
It has. Purely my fault.
No, it's mostly the Australians. The time zones are so wacky. It's a good time. Okay, what are we doing today? We are recapping Season 3, Episode 9, Malleus Maleficarum. Come from my pronunciation if you must, but I learned how to say it through Riverdale, so...
Oh, gosh.
I'll correct it later, it's fine.
I was about to say it sounds accurate to me, but now I want to say, like, it's wrong just because I don't like Riverdale.
Somehow this document became a key point in the Riverdale plotline.
Of course it did.
Everything's Riverdale.
Not caught up on Riverdale, but that doesn't surprise me.
The last season's actually really good, I'm not gonna lie.
Okay, well, fair enough.
By the time this episode comes out, we're probably gearing up for the final season, so it's good to put that show back on everyone's radar. And this episode originally aired on January 31st, 2008. Our first 2008 episode. We're in the same calendar year as Misha's first episode, so we're making progress.
Yeah.
Getting closer.
Nearly there.
And this title is a reference to a 15th century treatise on witches that was used to prosecute women accused of witchcraft across Europe. I know we're going to talk about it probably in the mythology section, so I'm not going to say too much more about it. This week's episode will contain spoilers for this episode and may reference previous episodes, but will not contain spoilers for later episodes of Supernatural. And this episode was written by Bette Edlund, and it was directed by Robert Singer, and they were both last year on the same episode, which was Season 3, Episode 3, Bad Day at Black Rock, so it hasn't been too long.
Wow.
Yeah, not the scariest Bette Edlund episode, not gonna lie. This one, it is what it is. Let's talk about giving it a rating. Meredith, what would you like to rate the episode?
I don't know, I'm in a pretty apathetic frame of mind right now, so I'll give it like a 6.5, I guess. I don't know.
Whiskey, how about you?
I think I'm gonna give it a 7 for, like, the mythology, but I felt like it went really fast.
Yeah, it was a fast-paced episode. I gave it a 7.5 because, like, it's a decent episode. Stuff is happening. It's moving along. It moved along at a brisk pace, which is, I would rather see an episode moving along than one not.
I mean, same, but it went from 1 to 1,000 in, like, a second.
Yeah, there were some leaps of logic that we're gonna get to them.
Yeah, we'll talk about.
Total death count. This week we saw 5 deaths, bringing our on-screen total to 232, and the on-off-screen total for the episode was also just those 5, so that total is now 1,404 plus. And before we get into the full recap, if you want to hear more of my coverage of this episode, I covered this one on Saving People Queering Things through the lens of loyalty. I highly recommend you check that out. We had such a good time. It was my first time meeting Noah, and we had a good time with it. good. Recap, we start with a husband and a wife who are just home from a not great party, and the wife is freshening up when her teeth start falling out. And I don't like teeth. It's super well established that I don't enjoy anything to do with teeth or nails or eyes. So this is real gross.
This is literally one of my nightmares. I've had a lot of complications with teeth in my life, and this has happened to me so many times in my dreams, and it's so terrifying to watch.
Yep. This is a nightmare fuel episode for sure. It's awful. And somehow her teeth falling out kills her, and we're getting chanting from another woman while this is happening. And then we get a title card, and then Paul, the husband, is being interviewed by Sam and Dean, and they're pretending to be the CDC this week. So that's fun.
Yeah, probably more appropriate than the FBI.
Probably. They do FBI later in the episode. It's fine.
Yeah, they'll eventually go back.
Dean's actually the one doing the interviewing, while Sam is rummaging through the bathroom. Big surprise, everybody loved Janet. Who could possibly want to kill her? Just does not mention the woman that he was sleeping with.
Well, it did not hide it very well either.
Dean's wearing a very sharp suit, though, and Sam's hair is looking great.
Oh, good. There's a reason to watch the episode.
I know, I love season 3 Sam's hair.
Yeah.
It's been a mixed bag, honestly, this season, but when it's good, it's really good. And this week it's good. Sam shows Dean the hex bag that he pulled from under the sink, and Dean's disgusted. He's not a fan of witches because they're always spewing bodily fluids everywhere, and he thinks it's unsanitary. And there's some historical context for that. I feel like we've discussed on the show before. Some of the basis for some of these myths is a little icky. I'm specifically remembering Meredith's history lesson on ectoplasm. It's a little icky.
Cool.
I mean, ectoplasm was way after the beginning of witches, but it is a little icky.
I can see how some of the witch folklore might have been icky in the past. This stuff just kind of was.
Yeah.
I have something to say on that later.
Yeah, I'm sure.
we both do. Yeah, we both like history.
Sam's witches are basically just people, but whoever this witch is, they wanted Janet dead, and then they drive off. And I'm witches are kind of fun in this episode, in that they're kind of like a regular mystery. You've got to find the means and motive and opportunity, and then you find the murderer. Maybe not so much opportunity because magic facilitates some impossible killings, but means and motive for sure.
Oh yeah.
It feels a bit more like regular mystery hour instead of supernatural mystery hour.
Yeah, because murderers are just people too.
Yeah. We meet Amanda and Elizabeth, and Amanda doesn't want to talk to her friends, clearly. She is avoiding them.
She has shady things to do.
Yeah, she goes inside and she's got this super gross, half-rotted chicken carcass of nightmares in her oven. It's super gross, and I'm squeamish about it.
I hate maggots.
Yeah, they're just icky.
Yeah, Dean's right, that is kind of insanitary.
Yeah. Also, it's in her oven that she probably uses to cook actual food. It's just so gross. Don't keep it in there.
Not anymore. You're gonna have to clean that oven.
Just, I don't know, put it on the self-clean cycle. Paul is now sitting in his car, and every rose has his thorns is on while he's, eating a burger. I don't know why he's eating the burger in his car.
His wife just died. Give him a break.
I guess, but, it's not like you have to pretend you're not eating the burger. There's no one at home to judge you.
Maybe he just happened to be in the car.
I guess. Anyway, he's, parked in the middle of nowhere, which is a whole other thing.
There we go. He wanted to get out of his house because that's where his wife died.
Amanda is now dressed in lingerie for no real reason, and
she wanted to feel special while she murdered her ex-lover.
Yeah, she adds a watch to her chicken nightmare, and she stabs the chicken, and Paul's radio suddenly changes to "I Put a Spell on You" by Screamin' Jay Hawkins, and his burger gets all maggoty also, and it's icky, and I don't like it.
I have to say, I didn't eat a burger for a solid week after watching that episode for the first time. My dad offered me one. I remember my dad offered me one. I was like, no thanks.
Won't be eating that today, thank you. Yeah, no, I hate this. I hate everything about it. The radio turns himself back on when he turns off, and he's choking. Sam and Dean suddenly pull up. They say they were following him, which explains how they just arrive out of nowhere. They burn the hex bag so he lives, and Amanda's chicken also bursts into flames. So glad that chicken's dealt with.
It's cooked now.
Paul admits that he was having an affair with Amanda, who he described as crazy and psychotic. I don't remember what word he exactly used, but it wasn't great.
At least he's kind of right.
I think he might have used the phrase unstable.
Probably.
Yeah.
Which is playing into the whole thing of, witches are just generally unstable women.
Yeah, exactly.
This one is.
Well,
also just the narrative of ex-girlfriends being unstable in general.
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times it's not the women who are unstable.
In this case,
Yeah,
in this case.
She is a serial killer.
But there are a lot of men out there who say that their exes are unstable, when really their exes are just, like, you know, rightfully upset about them.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, hysterical and unstable, like, are just, like, descriptors used to undermine women's authority and validity. Anyway, to the episode. Also, yeah, everything that goes wrong in this episode is basically because Paul was cheating on his wife, yet somehow he's the only one who survives this episode. He's the only named character, aside from Sam and Dean, who survived this episode.
Fine, it means he gets to live longer and reflect on his sins.
Or cheat again.
I don't know. I want to give him like a little bit of hope. Maybe his trauma will keep him from wasting women.
Yeah, that's true. Amanda starts profusely bleeding from her wrist, like just horribly, and she dies.
Yeah, they slash vertically too. It's more effective than horizontally.
Yes, Sam and Dean both take note of that. Sam and Dean break into her house. The candles are still lit. She's like very freshly dead because these candles haven't even like burned down. And they're super confused because they came in here like expecting a witch and ready for a fight, and she's already dead. There's an excellent shot. Amanda, when she dies, she falls onto a glass table, and the shot is from underneath the table. So there's blood, and then her, and then like between her head and her arm through the glass table, Dean's like standing behind her, and it's just very well shot. Great job, Robert Singer. Dean describes this as a spurned lover's hat trick, by which he means double murder suicide. That's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah.
You didn't need to say it like that.
But he did.
But yeah, they also take note that like Amanda like seemingly killed herself, and she's got 3 vertical slash marks on her arm. And I'm like, I don't know about, maybe I'm just like, I don't know, maybe not everybody has like a dark phase in their teen years, but like you can't get I don't think you can get 3 slashes on both wrists before you bleed out. It just seems like a lot.
That deep.
And straight. I'm like, that's suspicious. That is suspicious to me. If I was an actual detective, I'd be like, that's a lot of splash marks.
Yeah, like I think as soon as you got into your non-dominant hand, those would not be that straight.
Because either you use your dominant hand, and then your non-dominant hand is slashed open already, and you're using it to do the other slash, or you start with your dominant arm, and then your dominant arm is already cut open when you're doing it just doesn't work. 3 slashes on each arm is too many slashes.
Either way, this was done to her.
Yes. Yeah. This did not scream suicide to me, but then they're like, maybe this is wishes. Sam's also like such a picky eater. Like he's true to form, like rightfully so, disgusted by the nightmare chicken, but like he just made like the most cute eater face. Dean gets jump scared by the dead rabbit hanging from the ceiling, and he is real upset about the dead rabbit, which I appreciated. We love an animal lover, and we don't condone animal cruelty. This is not good. At least it's not a cat for once. Supernatural loves to kill cats.
I know. What did they do to you? If it was a dog, everyone would be so mad.
I mean, the times in Supernatural where it is a dog are horrible, so we don't really want to advocate for that either. It's all bad.
I'm not. I'm just saying that people would be more emotional about it if it was a dog. I've noticed these things. I have a whole thing.
As a dog lover, I can't confirm that is just true. Sam finds another hex bag, and he's like, the witch got a witch, I guess. And Dean's like, okay.
Got witched.
I'm going to call this into the police, and then they don't immediately leave. They keep talking about how maybe it's a coven. And I'm like, you already called the police. You don't know how far the police station is from this house. You don't know where the nearest police officer is to this house. There could be a police officer on patrol around the corner. Don't just stand there. But they do.
And it works out for them.
Yeah, then we're with Elizabeth, who's arriving to book club with the 2 other friends, Renee and Tammy. And it's a book club, and we know that Amanda was a part of the book club, and Elizabeth doesn't like Rod, like off the bat. Rod is someone's husband, either Tammy or Renee's. I'm guessing Renee's.
I think it was Renee's because everything book club happened at Renee's place.
Oh, Rod, you're an intrusion.
He is an intrusion, but he also is making some really valid points because he calls the book club witches out for never bringing a book to book club. And I'm like, these people are bad liars. It's so hard to just like switch up the book that you're bringing like once a month or so. Like, is that so difficult?
I'll just bring a book in general.
Yeah, just bring a book and switch it out every once in a while for a new book. Like, it's not super difficult.
Wouldn't it be really funny if one of them brought the Malleus Maleficarum?
It would be.
I actually have that book.
Do you?
Yep, it's over there on my bookshelf.
Is it in Latin or English? English?
Books.
Well, interesting. Tammy, Elizabeth, and Renee have all figured out that Amanda killed Janet. And Elizabeth's like, we have to stop all of this. Like, people are starting to talk and whisper, but Renee's like, I'm just gonna talk you back into this because book club is cover witchcraft, and also, like, clearly Renee and Tammy have killed Amanda for being unstable and killing Janet. These people are also using magic for the worst things. Home business success, getting their husband a promotion, a trip to Hawaii. These things are not worth your soul.
It's not, but it also goes against the one solid rule of Wiccan, which is don't use witchcraft for personal gain. It will bite you.
I've seen Charmed. That's like the only rule in Charmed.
It is the only rule in Charmed because it's a true rule. You can use witchcraft for things like protection and stuff, but if you start to use it for personal positive gain, it's not going to work out very well.
We have a close-up on Elizabeth gardening just so we can get some more worms action in this episode, because that's what this episode was lacking, was a close-up on some worms.
So glad you understand.
Gotta have those worms.
Sam and Dean are now detectives Bachman and Turner for Bachman Turner Overdrive. Elizabeth actually does a pretty, I think, decent job at lying to Sam and Dean. Like, she's like, I don't know anything you're talking about. Like, I think she does a pretty good job. Up until the point where Tammy and Renee come over to shut Elizabeth up before she says anything about Amanda that she shouldn't. I think that's honestly more suspicious than anything that Elizabeth said on her own.
Yeah, come on, guys.
But Dean and Sam are not buying this because Sam does a quick, I don't know, he has a bunch of paper, but like basically does a Google search, and all the book club ladies are having super good luck, and they figure that Amanda went too far, and they just like stopped her. And like, again, I was like, one of the things Sam says is that one of them is like won almost too many raffles, and I'm like, a little effort goes a long way.
All right, which one was the blonde one? Was that Renee?
Renee, yeah.
Renee.
She is like an annoying wasp.
Yeah.
I want to strangle her.
Yeah, like she's just like a Stepford wife, like fake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was how she said her name as well.
She seems like she would live in a gated community and yell at children who are near her lawn.
Oh, yeah, and Whiskey's right. The way that she says her full name with her husband's name, it gave military spouse, is what it gave.
It did.
Or CEO's wife, someone who doesn't have a job, but their personality is their husband's job, which is just I don't know. You don't need to have a job. You can be a stay-at-home wife or stay-at-home mom, but your personality can't be your husband's job, because that has nothing to do with who you are as a person.
Why don't you just grow as an individual and leave the rest of us alone with your pretension?
And it's just so condescending.
I loved how Sam mocked her in the car. He's like, Renee Van Ellen. It was love you, Sammy. Love you.
Yeah.
Shut up, man.
Yeah, Sam probably dealt with people like that at Stanford all the time.
Oh gosh.
Because only people on scholarships or people with money or can afford to go there. I'm sure that there are definitely people he knew. I'm sure Brady probably was from a rich family. I always got that vibe.
Oh yeah, that guy.
He was in pre-med or something.
Oh, and he was in pre-med. Oh,
pre-med
no.
at Stanford. That's a fortune right there. That is a small fortune.
I mean, I can't say too much because I have friends who are trying to get into medical school, but you get a lot of people with a god complex over there.
They are, so that they have a whole ethical debate. Dean wonders aloud if the other witches killing Amanda was such a bad thing, and Sam's like, hey, witches bewitching, we also need to stop those other witches. And Dean's like, okay, when you say stop, do you mean stop because you just said 10 minutes ago that witches are essentially human beings, do you mean dead? And Sam's like, murderers be murdering, we're killing them.
I'm glad he can make that distinction, I guess.
Their argument is interrupted because Ruby conks out Baby's engine so that she can stand in the road dramatically and tell them to get the fuck out of town because the witches get their powers from a demon and the demon is super powerful.
She's making a very good point about warning them, but if I could...
But they're never gonna...
If I could just stop someone's engine and stand in the road dramatically, I so would. I would abuse that power so much.
Clearly, she looks great doing it too.
I love Ruby so much. Season 3 Ruby, I'm halfway through season 4, and then stuff happens, but I love Ruby so much.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Ruby, and I hadn't previously been such a fan of this version of Ruby, but I'm on board with it, honestly.
Yeah, she's awesome.
She's got a dramatic heart, and I love it.
She understood the assignment.
Yes, she really did. And so the fight just kind of escalates from there because, like, now Ruby's here, and Dean points the new Colt at Ruby and is not interested in taking any advice from her. She's a demon, and you know what? Fair enough. Fair judgment.
I was gonna say that's racist, but then
Sam is like, I put in my notes, Sam is showing clear signs of childhood trauma and like hyperventilating when they're arguing.
Yeah.
And I was just
literally
like,
in my notes, Sam is visibly stressed about Dean and Ruby screaming at each other. Like, it is very much giving, like,
child when their parents argue.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but also just like unhappy household as a child. Just like a household full of yelling. Yeah, it's clearly scratching at the surface of Sam's childhood trauma. But Dean takes a shot at Ruby, and Sam knocks Dean's arm so he misses, and that is the shot heard around the world. A moment of silence, please, for this fracture in Sam and Dean's relationship. Because I think we're going to find that this is unrepairable.
I'm so upset at that.
This particular action, I think, does more damage to Sam and Dean's relationship than just about anything else in the show, and all other damage, like, comes back to this moment where Sam stopped his brother from killing Ruby.
And wasted a bullet.
I don't know if we're counting bullets anymore. I don't know if we can make new bullets or not.
I think at this point we can't make bullets. I think
we don't know what Ruby did to make the Colt work to kill demons again, and we don't know how many bullets they have. So we don't really know, to be honest. Dean noticed a couple of episodes ago when Sam used one of the bullets. So it means, like, clearly there is either a limited number or they're different bullets than the regular guns, which would make sense because it's a different type of gun. But we don't know how many bullets they have. We don't fully, I think, know. The stuff with the Colt is a little murky at the moment, and I haven't watched, like, seasons 3 to 5 enough to, like, remember exactly when we learn more information. But yeah, bullet wasted, damage to the relationship done. Ruby gets the fuck out of there. She can only be expected to do so much. She's given them a warning. She's risked being shot at. She's out.
Smart.
Sam and Dean go back to the motel. They're still fighting, and Sam's, like, insisting that he knows that Ruby's dangerous, and he's like, no one's stringing me along, and I just don't believe you, Sam. I just don't believe. I think you think that you and Ruby are playing each other, but I just don't believe that that's what's actually happening.
Dean's look at Sam after he says, no one's stringing me along, is like my favorite look ever.
It's like, are you sure about that, Sammy?
Sam then does make a pretty good point, though, of if Ruby does want them dead, all she needs to do is stop saving them.
Pretty much.
She has saved them a couple of times. They're in a war, and they need to do whatever it takes to win. And Dean points out that Sam used to agonize over the idea of killing people, but he's less and less concerned about that these days. And Sam's like, well, it got me nothing. And Dean's like, this is just what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get in the car, and we're supposed to argue about the sanctity of life, and I'm not mad at you. I'm just worried because you're not acting like yourself. And Sam's like, yeah, I'm not acting like myself because you're gonna die in a few months, and I'm gonna be left here, and the only way I can survive is to be more like you. And that hurts.
That line pained me.
Oh, yeah.
Dean definitely was terrified of that.
Well, I also like Dean's realizing, I guess, again, that this is going to have, like, an actual effect on Sam when he goes, and it won't be a good one.
I think this is very in character of Sam. We saw this when John died. All of a sudden, Sam started acting so much like John. This is Sam's way of coping with losing people, and
it's not healthy.
It's not at all healthy.
Winchesters are not healthy people.
But also, Dean doesn't see himself as someone who anyone should strive to be like, and it's like the last person he would want Sam to be like. But Sam looks up to Dean, so, like, he sees this as someone he should emulate, and he needs to emulate in order to survive. Also, I think Sam doesn't realize the depth of emotion that Dean feels. I think Sam sometimes lets himself buy into the, like, outward, like, persona that Dean puts on. Like, I think it makes Sam feel better to believe that when it's not true. And I think Sam maybe sort of believes that he can do the same thing if he tries hard enough. Like, he can just not feel emotion.
Sweetheart.
When neither of them can actually achieve that. And also, like, I think for Dean, also part of this is not wanting Sam to grow or evolve or change for better or for worse. Like, he wants Sam to always be like the 22-year-old who sits in the car and yells at him about whether or not they should be killing a vampire. Like, I think he always wants Sam to be that Sam, and it doesn't really matter if Sam's changing for better or for worse. It's still changing, and Dean doesn't like it. Dean suddenly, their argument is basically stopped because Dean suddenly feels pain, and Sam can't find the hex Hextag. It's not looking for Dean because he starts coughing up blood. And I think the biggest mistake that this coven makes in this episode, on top of like wanting dumb things, is not taking out both the Winchesters at once. Hextags should be served to the Winchesters in pairs all times. You gotta do a 2-for-1 special. You can't like individually take them out.
Very true. But also someone on the internet made a joke about Dean like getting period cramps in this scene.
That's a choice.
It's like, well, he does feel like he's being stabbed. That is accurate.
Yeah, honestly, not that far
Jensen's
off.
acting was amazing in this scene, though.
Yes, it was.
Sam makes the decision to just leave Dean. He grabs the Colt and races over to where he somehow knows book club is happening. Like, he just figures that out somehow on the drive.
It's probably just a really good guess. Like, if they're performing a spell, they're probably doing it together.
It's a 1 in 3 shot, I guess. And he picks correctly. Or, maybe we just don't see him busting into 2 empty houses. Hard to say.
She's like, it must be the insufferable one's house. She seems like an alpha.
Ruby kicks in the door because I guess Sam locked the door on his way out. And she sprays some stuff in Dean's mouth and saves his life. He's not super appreciative because
they're in a motel though, so like the doors automatically lock as soon as you close them unless you open them from the inside.
guess I hadn't thought of that. I guess I was thinking of it having like a key lock, but yeah, I guess you're right. It probably did automatically lock. I was like, why is the door closed? Like, why does she have to break the door? But that does make sense.
Or she's just being dramatic. One of the two.
It is Ruby.
Could be open and she would kick it open anyway. It's like, I'll save him in a second. I have to make a good entrance.
Dean's like not super appreciative of her saving his life because it's not.
It's Dean.
It's gross, and he's Dean and she's Ruby. Sam is threatening the women when he realizes that they're just like women who made a dumb decision and like they're doing really trivial witchcraft to make changes to their really trivial like middle class lives. And Ruby and Dean make an ableist joke to each other. It's not worth repeating, just worth saying that it's really uncomfortable to listen back to now. And Ruby like knows witchcraft stuff. Sam quickly figures out that Tammy's the demon. She's the only one who hasn't really gained anything, and Sam's like, it's because you already got what you wanted, which was these other women's souls. And Sam can just spot a demon from a mile away.
Honestly, Tammy, you should have like put more effort into your cover.
He's like a bloodhound, but for demons.
I mean, you should have just asked for something nice for yourself also.
Yeah, it would look weird if you're the only one like not benefiting.
I think that speaks to how self-centered these other women are, that they just never noticed that Tammy wasn't getting anything.
Yeah.
Was never asking for something. But Tammy's like, Jean's lung should be on the floor by now, and so Sam shoots her, but she stops the bullet, and I'm a crossroads demon and a yellow-eyed demon who would have loved to know that prick before they took a bullet to the head.
They just didn't have enough clearance.
Yeah, and she's the only person I think who's really able to do this that I can remember. Certainly the only person we've seen so far with that ability. Sam is shook and now in over his head in this fight, and he goes flying into the wall, and Tammy kills Renee, I think just mostly out of spite.
I mean, they all would.
Yeah, she's annoying. And Sam tries to get Elizabeth out of there, but Tammy's having a good time. So Elizabeth's just kind of stuck waiting. And Elizabeth confirms that the women didn't really believe that they were selling their souls, but Tammy's like, you definitely knew. It was very clear. And your soul belongs to me. And Tammy's been looking for Sam, so it's real convenient that he busted down her door. Because she's one of the demons who doesn't believe in Sam. There's a new, better leader rising, and this demon wants Sam out of the way. Just doesn't want Sam around, which, fair enough. If you're an opposing force, I guess the Boy King of Hell isn't someone you want just wandering around, even though Sam doesn't really seem intent on doing anything with that title.
Doesn't seem like he's one for swanning.
Sam starts sliding up the wall, and I got a little nervous that this is going to be a Mary Jess, like, up the wall bleeding situation, but the wall starts, like, cracking instead, so I'm like, that's different. Dean comes in, and he's not at all effective against Tammy either. He doesn't actually need to be here in this fight, because he's doing nothing. They're both here accomplishing 0 against Tammy.
Yeah, maybe Dean just needs to be there so he can scream.
Yeah, mostly. Ruby and Tammy know each other, and Ruby wants to be taken back, and she offers the boys a gift, and Ruby's wanted Tammy for so long, and Dean's like, I'm picking up the gay vibes here. I don't know what's happening, but he's just picking up vibes. He is making all the facial expressions.
Oh, goodness.
Ruby comes in with the knife, but it falls to the ground, so it becomes a physical fight, and Tammy goes for a poker to get get Ruby, remembers that Elizabeth exists for a minute, but like ignores her. She's like, I'll deal with it later. But that is enough just for Elizabeth into action while Ruby and Tammy keep fighting. And Ruby is revealed to be a witch when she was a human, and she sold her soul to Tammy for the ability to do witchcraft stuff. And when she died, she went to hell and became a demon. And Tammy starts exorcising Ruby, and I don't know how that works without exorcising Tammy. I guess if you're the one doing it doesn't count towards you. But
I mean, she can stop a bullet. I'm willing to believe a few things.
Yeah.
But also, Supernatural just doesn't have a lot of internal consistency sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe she's got that, like, locked in thing that Meg did to Sam when Meg possessed Sam or something, but...
Maybe, yeah.
Elizabeth's had enough time to get some words in, and Tammy starts coughing up needles, which is icky. Also, I don't like it either. And Sam and Dean fall to the ground, and Tammy kills Elizabeth, but Dean stabs Tammy with Ruby's knife, so she's good. She's gone. It's all good.
Woohoo!
Sam's not feeling so hot after this fight. I didn't think he got all that seriously injured, but he seems to be minorly to majorly injured. Like, he needs Dean to pick him up off the ground.
He got, like, forced into a wall.
He did get forced to the wall pretty hard, but, like, considering the things that Sam Winchester does go through and has already been through with hardly a scratch, this felt pretty minor.
It was a very tough wall.
Yeah, it was a real tough wall. Dean scraped him off the ground, and Ruby sends them on their way. So Dean's like, okay, we're gonna go. And he shoves Sam out the door, but he does make sure to stop and pick up the Colt so that Ruby doesn't have it. And Ruby grabs her knife out of Tammy. And I'm like, that's the whole book club in 1 week that's dead. Like, that's a big freaking yikes. Good thing Ruby's on cleanup duty, and apparently the cops in this town suck. Because that's bad. The whole club's just gone.
Can you imagine the cops, like, coming into the book club, like, house and just seeing all their witch stuff out?
Well, I think Sam painted a pretty good picture too, because like when he was questioning Elizabeth, he was like, Amanda's house was full of satanic paraphernalia, and like, what do you know about this? Like, I think that's gonna be the takeaway. It's gonna be satanic panic in this like rich-ish seeming white neighborhood.
No, they don't like that though in rich white neighborhoods.
They generally don't. Back at the motel room that Sam and Dean, mostly Sam, trashed earlier looking for the hex bag, Dean's outside when all the lights go haywire, and Ruby shows up, and she says that she doesn't believe in the devil. We just learned like 5 episodes ago that there are demons who view Lucifer as like a higher power / god-like figure, so it's good to know that, like people, not all demons are a believer. Very interesting. Ruby's like, I was a human back when the plague was big, and all the demons I know were also once human, but most of them don't really remember what that was like, and there are fire and agonies waiting for Dean in the pit, and he'll become a demon too someday, eventually, and it might be centuries from now, but it's definitely gonna happen. And Dean calls Ruby out, being like, you aren't able to save me, and she's like, nope, I definitely can't do that, but I need Sam to talk to me, and I just want to get Sam ready for life without you, and to fight this war without you. And Dean hates Ruby, but he really needs Sam to be okay without him, so I think he's kind of on board. And Dean asks why she wants them to win, and she says she's not like other demons. She remembers what it was like to be human, and then she disappears, and Dean's just a guy in a parking lot.
It was a great scene when you said she's not like other demons. Like, my brain just went to a very memey kind of place.
Yeah. Ruby does give a little bit like, pick me girl, I'm not like the other girls kind of vibe, the way that she talks about demons.
Yep.
It's a separation. But yeah, that's pretty much where the episode ends. Like, it's a very fast-paced episode. MVP of the week. Whiskey, who would you like to nominate as this week's most valuable person?
I'm going to say Ruby. I feel like she did a lot of the footwork here to try and get rid of Tammy.
Yeah, that's fair. Meredith, how about you?
I was also going to say Ruby.
I was also going to say Ruby. That is 3 for 3 on Ruby. Bechdel test. Did they show up 2 named women in this episode? Yeah, we had way more than 2. We had Ruby, we had Tammy, we had Elizabeth, we had Renee, we had Amanda. Renee had a full first and 2 last names. Like, we had women who were named, and they talked to one another, and they had conversations about things other than men. So this episode absolutely passed the Bechdel test.
Yay!
My one Bechdel test maybe complaint is Amanda stripping down to a slip to kill Paul. I just don't know if that was necessary. Janet also wasn't like technically undressed when she died, but like her dress was open. Like, she was half undressed for sure. And I'm like, I don't know if we if we need to wait to be undressed for these events to occur, but
wasn't she also wearing a slip?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, either she's wearing a slip or she's wearing a slip and a dress, but her dress is unzippered. Like, her dress was definitely unzippered before she went into that bathroom. I don't know if she took the whole thing off or not, but like, either way, we didn't need to die in our underwear. It wasn't required. It didn't add anything.
So undignified. Honestly, one of my nightmares.
Paul was fully dressed in his car. I'm just saying. As the only real man, aside from Sam and Dean in this episode, I'm just saying, fully dressed. Sam and Dean, fully dressed. Didn't require anything to be removed. This week's case of the week was witches. Meredith, do you want to go first? Or do you want Whiskey to go first? Do you have a preference?
I don't have a preference.
Okay. Whiskey, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
A lot of the witchy stuff that happened in this episode was actually kind of accurate, which is what I give Supernatural a big whoop on, is a lot of the witch stuff that they do is actually kind of accurate. So the incantation that she was using, Amanda was using at the very start to kill
Janet.
Yeah, there we go. Part of it was actually correct for a curse incantation. It was all in Latin, which is what most incantations are in. They use a lot of binding in this, so like blood binding and personal binding, like personal belonging binding, like the watch. And they also and they do it a lot in Supernatural actually. They use fire for cleansing, which is one of the main things that, like, say if you think a spell hasn't went exactly how you want, you burn it, which is exactly what they do in this. They also use like a lot of like the herbs. I'm not going to go into the herb stuff because that's just me being a nerd. But the title, which I think both of you two have something on, but I wanted to talk about a little bit. It was a text written and used in the 15th and 16th century trials of witchcraft, but it was also written as like it's written in 3 parts. The first 2 parts were written as almost a praising of witchcraft, and then the 3rd part was written in how they can use it to like legal procedures to be followed during the witch trials. Part 1 is just proving witchcraft, but something cool about part 1 of Malleus Maleficarum, do this
Maleficarum?
There you go.
There we go.
Is that it actually states that any disbelief in demonology and witchcraft can be seen as, and treated as heresy, and could be also have implications and consequences for not believing in demonology, which I thought was pretty cool. It states that any witnesses, no matter his credentials, may testify against the accused, i.e. the woman accused of witchcraft. And part 2 is actually the highest praise of witchcraft that can be seen in a lot of text. I'm saying this as I have the book over there and I could be reading this, because it compiles a bunch of stories of the fabulous things that witches do, and that is a direct quote from the book. It states that witches do all of these things, and they have diabolic compacts, and they have sex with the devils, with like incubi, succubi, transvection, night riding, metamorphosis, all of this stuff. It was actually high praisal of witches and witchcraft and everything that they do. They were saying that they were powerful and that they were strong, which is such like a direct change to what they go into in part 3 of the book, which is all of the legal proceedings. Another direct quote from the text is, lay and secular authorities, I can't remember my own handwriting, are called upon to assist the inquisitors in the task of exterminating those whom Satan has established in his cause. This was the main piece of text used, and it would be said in each and every one of the trial executions, which from between the years 15,000 to 1660, over 80,000 suspected witches died and were executed in this. They would either be like water trials to see if they were witches, which were if they drowned, they'd be dunked in a lake of water, and if they drowned, they weren't a witch. If they lived, they were a witch. So either way,
That's not good. It's not good, because either you're innocent and you're dead, or you're alive and you're guilty,
and then you'd still be put to death
anyway.
Well, yeah, a lot of these trials were kind of just guilty until proven innocent, and we don't really want you to be innocent.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was guilty until proven innocent, but we're not going to prove you innocent. Fun fact, Germany had one of the highest conviction rates of witches and witch trials. The other thing I wanted to talk about was something that KJ said earlier about like the whole unsanitary thing. That is actually derived from one witch in particular, like the whole aspect of, oh, witches are unsanitary and witches. It is derived from one witch and one coven of witches. It was a coven of witches in Connecticut, I think. And it all started out with one witch called, I can't remember my own handwriting. It starts with a B, is all I can remember. But it was an old woman who was suspected of killing a child in a home because when the child died, they found a needle mark in her neck. And it was suspected that this witch, as they were calling her a witch, was suspected of killing the child. And the woman actually disappeared before they could do anything about it. They don't know where she went. All they knew is that she disappeared. And then a few years later, a gravestone magically turned up, barely a mile away from the house where it was suspected that she killed the child. Literally, they had a huge garden, and outside the fence of the garden, a tombstone appeared for this witch. So that is where the whole thing of, witches are unsanitary comes from, because that witch led a very unsanitary life, and it was said that so many things happened with this woman that she must have been a witch. And the entire she housed a bunch of women, which it was actually found out that she housed like abused women and women getting out of domestic abuse. But it was thought that all of those women were in a coven with her, so they were watched, because this was way after times of witch trials, but still in the time of satanic panic, and anything to do with witches was still frowned upon, and so they were watched in case they did anything illegal. And if they did anything illegal, then their witchcraft or suspected witchcraft could still be used in their trials. So that's about all I have, I think, without pulling down the actual book, which is over there.
Oh, good. Well, that didn't have as much overlap as I was thinking it might, which is good.
Oh, yay.
That's great. Meredith, do you want to do your bit?
Yeah. A witch can be many things. Typically, a witch is a magic user who is closely connected to nature and or the devil, depending on who you ask. One thing we haven't mentioned is that witches don't have to be female, but they're more likely to be if you look at witch trials. There were actually lots of male victims of witch trials, but they were mostly female, and you were more likely to be accused if you were a woman. They targeted the most vulnerable people in society, and in the early modern era, that happened to be women. Also, a witch can refer to a practitioner of Wicca, as was covered. I'll mainly be focusing on Western examples of witches, since witches as we know them and we're discussing them are mainly a Western concept, and many other cultures have what we call witches, but they don't really consider them the same way as we do. So the word witch comes from Old English. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it looks kind of like Wicca, because same origin. Today, witch usually refers to women, and men are warlocks. I personally believe that wizardry is something completely different. Most of our beliefs and tropes about witches, a lot of the less flattering ones, come from the Middle Ages and the subsequent early modern era. So there were a lot of folk beliefs and traditions that were passed on and later kind of revived with neo-paganism. So a lot of these beliefs were a combination of paganism and Christianity, merging. A fun fact, in a lot of Slavic cultures, any old woman was considered a witch, and also they told young women to be careful about hanging out with any old women because they were witches and they might be Baba Yaga or something. Obviously, they had a different attitude towards witches, and they weren't going to execute you automatically, and we wouldn't have any old women.
Yeah.
In antiquity and the early Middle Ages, witches weren't really an issue so much as evil witches. Lots of people practiced some form of folk magic, whether it was healing, predicting the future, whatever, that kind of thing. It was really common. But then we got to the early modern era and witch trials exploded. So next time somebody tells you that the Middle Ages were full of witch hunts and witch trials, that they're wrong. So 15th and 16th centuries are when you see lots of people, hundreds of people, thousands of people getting burnt at the stake with no real trial, accused witches getting tortured so they'll confess, and witch hunters wandering about Europe spreading fear and panic. The interesting thing is that this was during the Renaissance, which has been lauded as a time of science and reason and casting off the paranoid superstition of the Middle Ages. And this was the people during the Renaissance saying they were doing this, and it's just really funny to me, but not really that funny because thousands of people died.
Yeah.
But then again, people were freaking out about a lot of things during the early modern era. Witches were just one of those things. As with changelings, there was no handbook with a list of what was or wasn't a sign of witchcraft, at least not until we got stuff like the Malleus Maleficarum, and then later we had The Discovery of Witches, written by Matthew Hopkins in 1647. Hopkins was from England and the son of a Puritan minister. He eventually became known as a witchfinder general, which always makes me think of Good Omens, which is definitely where they got that from. And then there's the Malleus Maleficarum, written by a German Catholic clergyman named Heinrich Kramer.
Yep, I read all about that guy.
Yeah, he was fun, wasn't he?
Delightful.
So sexist. Anyway, the title was usually translated as The Hammer of Witches. It was published in 1486, so like right at the start of the whole kill the witch obsession, which it contributed to.
It's very falsely translated into The Hammer of Witches. It's
Yeah.
actually
Hammer of the Wicked, right?
Yeah, the true translation is The Hammer of the Wicked. I was going to say this earlier and I forgot. It was actually initially used in what was classed as the treatment of the demons, which was like exorcisms and things like that. It would be used in like those incantations, which is why it was the Hammer of the Wicked, not the Hammer of the Witches.
As with changelings, as we discussed a few episodes ago, I just want to stress that like a belief in witches or witchcraft is not the main issue here.
Mm-hmm.
Like people get scared and they want to be scared of something tangible, something they can kill. Doesn't matter if it's Jewish people, communists, Mexicans, queer people, black people, Asians, whatever. As long as there's a scapegoat. And in the early modern era, witches provided that. In conclusion, witchcraft is many things, and people in the early modern era had no chill.
They really didn't.
So I had a little bit more in the, like, after, like, talking, I sort of, like, tweaked in my brain that I have another veg, like, half veg. I'm so sorry that I forgot about this. So, on the topic of men being witches, men can be witches and men can be practicing witches in the belief of Wicca and paganism. In the 15th and 16th century witch trials, mainly the men who supported and went against what the court and the church were saying about, like, these women were witches. If somebody says, oh, that woman, if a man says, oh, that woman isn't a witch, that would be when he was sort of, like, generally, it was questioned if he was a witch as well, because he's sticking up for them. And that was actually about, I think, about 70% of the conviction rate on men, was just because they support women and they support women. So, basically, it was, if a man supports feminism, it wasn't. So, yeah. The other thing was a lot of people believe in Salem witch trials, which I'm going to say, it wasn't a big thing. Salem witch trials was actually classed as one of the smallest levels of witch trials in history.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because only 8 women died during the Salem witch trials. Altogether, 6 women died. And then I think up to 14 women, like after 8, I can't do the math. What's that? 8? No, 6. I'm so sorry, my brain's not working today. That's 6 women? Yeah, 6 women died as a direct result of the witch trials, and that is why if you go to Salem, there is 14 women and 1 man in a huge graveyard for Salem witch trials. The Salem witch trials weren't that big. Also, so wasn't burning at the stake. I think that was wasn't burning at the stake was mainly actually during sort of like the whole Bloody Mary incident that happened in England. But if you look in all of Europe during the witch trials, burning at the stake wasn't, because a lot of what the witch trials were literal trials. They would do a trial to see if the woman was a witch, and that was generally the drownings or the hikes or the torture that the men create. So the hikes were like treacherously like long hikes, and if they finished it in like a certain amount of time that wasn't seen as like an accurate amount of time, or if they finished it and there wasn't as many cuts on the woman's feet as they thought that they might do, then they were a witch. So it was all about trials, and so having a burning at the stake where almost definitely nobody's going to survive that, it was quickly put down. I think only about 12% of witch trials across the entirety of Europe and America was actually burning at the stake during witch trials. So it's not a very common practice.
Yeah, burning at the stake is nowadays associated with witchcraft, but the women in Salem were hanged and the 1 man who died was pressed. And burning at the stake was, I think, kind of associated with like the crime of heresy or treason, depending on where you are.
And actually the whole reason that it's sort of more pointed towards witchcraft in the witch trials, although it did happen in the witch trials, is because this woman, like the Queen, was nicknamed Bloody Mary, and people who were solely uneducated, they put Bloody Mary with the witch, who is the whole background behind the Bloody Mary legend, and then they put that in with witch trials, and then a huge rumour started, and it was not true. But Wicca nowadays, modern day Wicca, is generally used in like short forms, so like spell jars or incantations and stuff. And black magic is rarely, if ever, used by modern day neo-pagans and witches. It's more used in the falsity's name of, in the false name of witchcraft, that is then like put in Satanism and like the whole satanic worship, and what is also false satanic worship, because like what's false is that? I wanted to talk about the Book of Shadows, but it's not huge. That's the other main text that's used for witches, but that's sort of like a rite of passage. You write your own Book of Shadows that's like down covens.
Oh, that's great. I wanted to add a little bit, just a little bit, and I got all my information from Wikipedia, so take it with whatever grain of salt you require.
Wikipedia is not as bad as it used to be.
As it was.
Yeah, you can check the sources, like, and some of them are pretty good.
Because it was like midnight last night. But Henry Kramer, who wrote The Mouse Witchcraft, he mostly wrote all of this after like a particular witch trial that he oversaw.
Oh yeah.
Which had to do with, I think, like 13 women, but like one in particular he became a little bit obsessed with, Helena Schubrin. They all got acquitted from their trial, or at least like 6 of them did. So like that's good for them. But like he was like obsessed with her, and to the point where like the local bishop was like fed up with Henry Kramer and his self-important nonsense. It was like, get out of my city, like just go away. But yeah, all of those women either were freed or they received like mild sentences, like do penance. But Helena was accused of witchcraft because, with her witchcraft charge, she was also accused of murder of this knight who got sick, as though there wasn't anything else in like 1480 something that could possibly make you sick and die. But I just wanted to point out that like my guy, he's just like a little bit obsessive and weird, and we probably shouldn't have let this thing that he wrote shape history as much as it did.
So that is suspected why Malleus Maleficarum is set out into 3 parts, and that is why it's suspected that it's set out into such an obsessive way of saying like, oh, witches are this, and witches like do these fabulous things, and then it's set out into how this can affect the witch trials, because it was suspected that he wrote the first part because he was so obsessed with this woman, and then that's why he was praising everything to do with witchcraft. And then when they got acquitted of witchcraft, he was like, oh, okay, I need to change this so I'm not seen as like even more crazy person than I already am. And then he changed it, so the last part is sort of, if you read the book, and especially if you read it in, you guys can't read Latin, I can read Latin. If you read it in Latin, it's such a generalized, I don't know if you guys Latin.
I don't
know if Meredith reads Latin. You guys might be able to read Latin. I completely assume that. It's such a generalized, it's like a shift change, and it's such a quick shift change from part 2 to part 3 that it almost feels like an entirely different book. When I read it, I literally had to check, and I was like, what's going on? Like, this has changed completely. And then I looked into the history of it all, and I was like, oh, that makes complete sense.
That's a lot of mythology.
It was. I'm so sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. Next time we cover witches, there'll be less to cover.
Yeah.
Let's go on to our next segment, which is highlight and lowlight, and let's start with Meredith.
Okay. Lowlight is just the, amount of like uncomfortable gore.
Yeah, that's fair.
And highlight, I'll go with Ruby.
Excellent. Anything specific about Ruby or just Ruby?
Just Ruby. I like Ruby.
Whiskey, how about you?
My highlight, I think, very specific. I mean, I could go like the generalized way of, oh, my highlight is witchcraft accuracy. But actually, my highlight was the last scene with Dean and Ruby. I thought that was like I liked the cinematics of that scene, like the drama of that scene. I liked it. My low light, however, was how quickly it moved from like, oh, we're gonna talk about like Sam and like how like his shit like tone changed right now, and then it shifted from that and like to a peaceful, like they were building up the case to death, and I was like, oh. I was like, this does not feel like 40 minutes. It feels like 20. What has happened? I thought it was weird. It felt like it moved too fast.
I guess because they had to pack a lot into the episode.
Yeah, they did pack a lot into the episode. Anyone want to guess my low light?
Teeth?
Yes, I literally wrote teeth.
Teeth?
I don't like when teeth fall out.
That's fair.
That is fair.
My highlight is either Dean meeting Ruby. This is the first time Dean's met Ruby in the whole show so far. Or it's just like the end scene where Ruby tells Dean that one day he's going to become a demon. The drama, the eggs, the stakes are raised. Hell was bad, but becoming a demon is so much worse somehow.
You're gonna be one of them.
Our next segment is Call CPS. I don't think there is any reason to call CPS this week. No children present, which is always kind of good, I think. The firing squad, people who did not perform their job duties correctly. The police in this town seem a little slow.
Did not see a single police officer this entire episode, and you had 5 murders.
But, you know, witchcraft is hard to police out. It does kind of defy the, you know, a person needs to be at this crime scene committing the crime kind of deal. So I'm not going to hold it super against them. We don't love the police generally in the supernatural universe. Like, they aren't super helpful. On to mental health check. I'm not a psychologist. This segment is based purely on my own opinions. A weekly reminder that if you're struggling with anything else, please reach out for help. This may be slightly concerning, I would say, regarding mental health. I think Dean's mostly actually doing reasonably okay for a guy who's got less than half a year to live. Sam is where my concern is lying. He's had a big behavior/personality change since he died since Dean's demon deal. He's exhibiting some reckless behavior. He was, you know, calling out Dean's reckless behavior, but now that Dean stopped being so reckless, Sam is being a little bit reckless, and he's not behaving like himself.
I need somebody reckless in the duo.
But, like, I just, this whole season is bad, mental health-wise. Like, it's hard to be like, this episode was bad, when it's the same thing we've been, like, seeing every week. Like, it's not that their mental health is improving, it's just that, like, we can't keep, like, doing this every week, where we're like, their mental health is trash, because they're just at a constant level of trash at the moment. And that's just how it is. Soul transactions. You can sell your soul and become a witch. And these witches use their witchcraft to get mostly, in my opinion, dumb things like vacations and craft show wins. But like, could do a lot more with this. I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing to sell your soul for. It's not ideal, I would say, to sell your soul for a demon. But like, if you're gonna sell your soul to a demon anyways, this is one of the better things you could ask for.
It's very like suburban lady kind of desires.
I think we're gonna learn in like later episodes of Supernatural that there are other types of witches that haven't sold their souls, and that's the way to go if you're gonna go witchcraft in the Supernatural universe. This isn't it, but
witches with actual power.
Because this type of witches don't really get called whores by everybody, by people, by demons, by hunters. Just everyone's like,
so rude.
You're a parasite, basically. Yeah, everyone's a little bit rude about it, but I'm just saying, if you're gonna sell your soul to a demon, this would maybe be on my list of things to ask for.
Like when in Rome.
Yeah, because, you know, I would use it for something that's, I don't know, more worthwhile, I guess. But anyway, Sam's traumatic brain injury. Sam's fine. I rewound the fight scene just to check, because I thought, like, Sam's, like, staying on the ground a little while, and, like, Dean's, like, picking him up. Like, he's fine. He's hurt, but he's still conscious, so no brain injury.
I think there's more blows to the ribs than his head.
Yeah. I was like, is he unconscious, or is he just not getting up because moving hurts? So I'm like, it's just moving. Whiskey, I don't think you've been here for one of these Name That Episode segments.
I have not.
So we're naming the episode based on segments, based on like the way that Friends episodes are titled. So one where this thing happens, or one with this thing in it. And it could be like something like literal, like something that's actually like in the episode, or it could be something more funny. And I just kind of picked the best one. Anybody have any suggestions?
The one with the dead rabbit? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good one I didn't have on my list.
I don't think so.
I had 3 for consideration. I had the one where Dean and Ruby meet, the one with the nightmare chicken dinner.
Oh gosh.
The one where their brotherhood is irreparably damaged. That one might not be specific enough, honestly.
It's like, no, which one?
It is like the first one, but like, it might not be specific enough.
It's not. Chicken dinner is very specific, though.
Yeah. But yeah, Whiskey, do you have one to add? I know I just put you on the spot because I just explained to you what we're doing like 2 seconds ago.
I don't think so. I don't think so. I can't think of one.
So that brings us to our last segment then, which is our line of the week. Whiskey, would you like to go first?
Oh,
do you have one?
No.
No? Okay, would you like Meredith to go first?
Yes, please.
Meredith, do you have a line of the week?
I will in a second.
Okay, well, it's going to be a race, so whoever comes up with one first.
Oh, I liked when Ruby was talking to Dean at the end, and when she said that hell is forgetting what you were.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah, like not an entertaining line, but like a dramatic and like like important line.
Oh yeah, sometimes Supernatural has good lines.
Yeah.
I had, and like, you can completely like tell me if this isn't good to put on the podcast, but I had like funny, for me personally, was Ruby saying witches are whores, like just how she said it. It was very
Yeah, I think that's fine. Obviously, like, the word whore is problematic, but like,
it's kind of funny in like a Mean Girls sort of way.
Also, like, Ruby was a witch, so it's
Ruby
kind of
was
like,
a witch. It was kind of
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, it's one of those things where it's okay to say it about yourself kind of things.
Yeah, or if you're quoting Mean Girls.
Yes, Mean Girls is always quotable. My line is, Tammy makes a Survivor reference. She says, that's what happens to witches who get voted off the island when she's killing Renee. I love Survivor. But yeah, that's it for this week. Whiskey, where can people find you if they want to find you? Do you have a place?
Yes. So I edit Supernatural and a few other TV shows, including SWAT, The Rookie, and Criminal Minds, all on TikTok and Instagram. On TikTok, it's literally just Dean67Chevy, and on Instagram, I knew one of these ends, but on Instagram, it is Deans.67Chevy.
Perfect. And Meredith, where can people find you?
You can find me at Shades of Dayanira on Tumblr and Instagram and sometimes TikTok. And if you go there, you'll see lots of really cool drawings for the fantasy novel I'm writing.
Great. What are we doing next week? We are talking about season 3, episode 10, Dream a Little Dream of Me. That'll be fun. It's a Bobby episode. We haven't seen Bobby since like episode 2. So I guess episode 4. But either way, it's been a while. That's too long. Bobby should be in every episode.
The title of that episode, like the song that it's from, makes me cry. So I can't look at the title of that episode for too long without nearly crying.
I've been KJ, and this has been Supernatural Opinions. If you enjoyed our show, the best thing you can do is subscribe on your podcast app of choice and tell a friend. Check out our link tree in the episode description for all of our social media and any other Supernatural-related projects we might be working on. Send us an email. Our address is supernaturalopinionspodcast@gmail.com, or reach out directly at KJ, at @KJ on all platforms. Thank you to Joe Veretta for our theme song, and our logo was created by Faith Ebert of faithanddesigns.ca. The episode was recorded, edited, and produced by me, Ed and KJ. If you want to hear more from me, you can check out my other podcast, Series of Opinions. And last but not least, a huge thank you to all of our guests.
Some things in this world are supernatural. What we need is a savior.